Alright, what's up guys? Welcome back to Libertalia Game Supply. We're going to go through a deck list for Bujins for Master Duel. This is just kind of what I'm working with right now. I would say it's not entirely optimized, just because building up the resources for these ultra rares takes a little bit of grinding, and I've been a little bit tight on time lately with school. But I'll make comments as we go about what I might change or what I've been thinking about potentially upgrading to once I get around to collecting more of this stuff. Once we get to the end of the profile, maybe we'll go open a couple packs. I think I got a thousand of the gems saved up here, so we might as well have a little bit of that in here too. I will say, I recorded this video this morning. I made a ton of references to what was going to be the upcoming ban list for the TCG. Went to the gym after I recorded it. As I was leaving, turns out new ban list dropped. And everything I said in the video kind of became irrelevant, or they were no longer what if statements, and so I figured I'd better off just re-recording this and saying things with this new information in mind, in case anybody's wondering about any of that. The only reason I bring that up is because this list is very much so not legal in the TCG, and even more so now after the ban list. If you've seen that, if you haven't, I made a video reviewing it, or you can watch anybody else's. We're all going to pretty much say the same stuff, I imagine. But Desires went to 1. Tenki is already at 1 in the US, or in the TCG rather, and Max C is at 0 in the TCG. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards out of a 40 card deck that are not going to be in the TCG list. But I will update that in a with a physical list deck profile, so I can flex my Eternal Drip with one of the most slowly declining or rapidly declining rogue decks in the game right now, unfortunately. But we'll stop rambling, get into this deck list. So we got 2 Bujin Haruko to start us off here. This Pendulum monster is your rank up monster, so you don't really use it for anything other than its rank up effect in the Pendulum Zone. Just targets a Bujin Xyz monster you control, ranks it up into any of the other ones. Typically I'm using that to go into F-Zero, but there are other uses for it. So like I'll rank it up into Tsukuyomi or Kagutsuchi depending on the game state, and I'll review why once we get down to the extra deck. But it's usually just to rank up into Amaterasu to put more bodies on board from the Banished Zone to continue your combo, and either ending on Bujins with a lot of graveyard setup or F-Zero just to try to shut everybody down. Next we got Max C. So this is at 2 because they previously mentioned not having enough of the UR points, candy, tokens, whatever. I would probably move this to 3, maybe not. We'll have to continue testing and see how I like it against this meta. I got a feeling as you increase your rank, who you're playing against and the type of decks they're playing is going to change a lot, and so that will make a lot of the decisions here different depending on what types of decks are prevalent in this meta, because this ban list is different than the TCGs. I think it's just the OCG's list, and so it's probably gonna look a lot more like their meta. We got the 1 Bujin Yamato. This thing is not. You don't need to play it. I just can't bring myself to cut it. He's the OG. He's one of my favorites. Probably my favorite normal summon ever in the history of the game, so I gotta keep him. Pretty much all you're doing here. Honestly, it came in handy. I got put under a Maxi on turn 1. I had combo in hand, but I decided to just summon Yamato, set back row. I already had Crane, so then I threw a Hare in the graveyard with his effect in the end phase to add 1 Bujin from deck to your hand, and then discard 1 card from your hand to the graveyard. And so I was able to Hare to protect destruction, Crane over the monster, and then on my turn I was able to keep going. So it does come in handy. That end phase effect is admittedly super slow against the current decks, but comes up every now and then. We got the 1 Quillen, banish it from the graveyard to pop a face-up card on the field. Super versatile, along with the Centipede. These dudes have been putting in work. Definitely would play both of them, but I wouldn't play more than one of them. They're pretty recyclable. You can pull them back as bodies from Amaterasu if you want to reuse them. But usually having the 2 pops can get you pretty far. The 1 Turtle, I could see this being a second Hare. The targeting effects don't come up as often, but when they do, it feels so good to be able to turtle it. especially if they're not destruction effects, because then hair doesn't do anything. So if they like target and bounce, target and banish, something like that, turtle is pretty handy. So I like it at 1, but I could see why you'd play 2 a hair instead of a hair and a turtle. That's going to be a similar statement with Crane. So Crane and Sinew are pretty similar. Sinew activates from the grave, Crane activates from the hand. Currently, I think 2 Crane with the decks out Ben playing against would be better, just because there's not as much grinding. But I think as we go on, especially when you get into situations where you used your 1 Crane, or even if you had 2 Cranes, being able to dump this with like a Foolish Burial that I don't have in here yet, but will be making its way in here. Yeah, sorry. Being able to dump this with Foolish Burial is like searching the Crane without having to burn a Yamato effect or a Susanoo effect or something like that. So that's my thoughts on 2 versus 1. Mikazuchi, another one of. He's a decent normal summon. His effect is pretty good. When one of your Bujin Beast Warriors gets destroyed, he pretty much just replaces it. Special summons himself from hand. So it's kind of nice, especially when you got the Mahitatsus with no attack and not really, like, they're here because of their effect, not because of their stats. And so if you end up having to leave something not great on board during the end phase and you're able to have this thing in your hand, it's nice to be able to replace it with something. He also, if you discarded a Bujin this turn, you can search a Bujin spell or trap. So right now it's only Bujin Carnation. I did have the Bujin Regalia, the sword, in here earlier, but I cut it for some of this other stuff that I felt was a little bit better. Maybe I would put it back in. I don't know. We'll see how we feel about that later. So yeah, having that search effect in the end phase can be useful, but I really don't use it very often. He ends up just being a body to summon off of Torifune, however you say it, and then eventually, or occasionally, you'll end up using that replacement effect. Centipede, similar to Quillen, pops a spell and trap your opponent controls. Really nice, especially now with the triple skill drain in the TCG. That's going to be super, super relevant. In this format, I haven't run across skill drain. I'm not sure of what it's at in this format. But things like that will apply. So like Dimensional Fissure, Macrocosmos, field spells that are super relevant to the decks that you're playing against. You can pop all that, so it's super good. Arasuda is just here for an extra extender, so you can trigger it off of banishing a Bujin monster. So with stuff like Quillen, Centipede, that don't need a specific condition met other than a card being on your opponent's side of the field, you can banish to special summon this thing. Hair, you can use it to trigger. I would say that's a last-ditch effort, and you have to make that decision if you come to a situation where you're having to get a body on board, because you don't really want to waste the hair, but you can always just banish it to target whatever you have on the field to put an extra body. Mostly, the goal is to summon it off of Harume's banish to special summon herself. So, when you banish the special summon, you get to summon the Harume, then activate the effect of Arasuda to follow up special summon in defense mode, and then you have 2 bodies on board and haven't used a normal summon yet. It's at 1 because of the, like, triggering it can be a little bit tricky. So if you were to have multiples in your hand, it's a once per turn. If you were to have multiples in your hand, you're going to end up with dead copies of it. Like, normal summoning it sucks. You don't want to do that, so the 1 is plenty. Hair, MVP of the Bujingis. Banish it to protect one of your Bujin Beast Warriors on the field from being destroyed once this turn. So that comes up every single game, pretty much. Got to play it. That's why I'm saying you could probably go 2 instead of 1 and 1. But I like the turtle occasionally. But hair, super, super good. Harume kind of explained that already. Banish 1 from your graveyard to special summon it. During the end phase of the turn, it was destroyed. You can discard a card from your hand. Your opponent has to discard one from theirs. That I almost never use that, but I guess if you get the opportunity to use it and you have a Bujingi in hand, it's worth it. But I wouldn't start ditching stuff that you need, because it's usually not a huge plus, or a huge advantage. It's not a plus at all, actually. Bujingi Sinew, kind of talked about that already also. So it's an honest in the graveyard. When you're involved in battle, you can banish the Sinew for your Bujin Beast Warriors, and it gains attack equal to the attack of the monster it's doing battle with. The only caveat being that the damage it inflicts is only half. So essentially what it does is it honests the opponent, but then it inflicts damage equal to half the attack of the monster that you're doing battle with. Still comes up, and so like Crane could potentially, like, it'd be hard to come across somebody that is going to beat over something that's been craned. but Sinew is, you can't, like, obviously the mechanic of the card, you always win the battle unless they negate it, obviously. So it's cool. It's sometimes relevant, and once I get that Foolish Burial in here, you can pitch it without burning through your effects, kind of like we talked about with some of these other ones. Triple Mahitatu, this thing's awesome for setup, graveyard setup, and it's an extender. So you discard one from your hand, to Bujin card from your hand to special summon it to the field. And card versus monster is relevant if you're going to play like Bujin Carnation like we have here, Bujin Regalia the Sword, any of the other spell and traps. I suppose Bujin Candescence you could potentially end up playing in the deck. Once it's on the field, it's let me get that on the screen there. Once it's on the field, you can send a Bujin monster from your hand to the graveyard and then add one with a different name from your graveyard to your hand. So you could trade out a Bujingi for one of your Bujins to continue plays, or you can trade out anything for your Crane back, or whatever the case may be. That one I don't use as much. It's more this one. Banish one Bujin monster from your graveyard, send one Bujin monster with a different name from your deck to the graveyard. So this graveyard setup, that banish will also trigger the Arasuda, and you're probably just banishing something that's spent. So like Crane or any of these Bujin Beast Warriors do nothing in the graveyard other than Torifun. So you're going to banish and then throw something you need in the graveyard, which is probably going to be, well, it's going to be any of the Bujingis other than Crane, but most likely if you haven't used your hair yet, it'll be hair first. Depending on the board state, it would probably be the guys that pop second, maybe Sinew third, and Turtle fourth, depending on the effects that have been used against your board previously in the game. Then we got the MVP of the Bujins. So we got Bujin Torifun. He's a rescue cat for Bujin, so once he's on the field, tribute him, special summon 2 Bujin monsters with different types from the deck. So that's going to be one of your Bujin Beast Warriors and then one of your Bujingis. Typically, I want to go for the bodies first. So like Yamato and Mikazuchi, which aren't monsters that you typically want to normal summon. They're just kind of there as fodder for Torifun, as well as like the occasional times their effects come up. So you're going to put that plus one of your Bujingis, probably one that you need the effect of very soon or now. So you're going to overlay for Susanoo, detach the Bujingi, search, continue on your play from there. But this thing is the best card in the deck. By far, you need it. 3 of, for sure. It'd be really hard to play this deck without 3 of them right now, I would say. Moving on to the spells, we got Harpy's Feather Duster, just good to clear out back row. We got a lot of back row hate between Quillen, Centipede, Feather Duster, and then this Twin Twisters down here. It doesn't cost a discard, so that's why I didn't play the 2 Twin Twisters. I probably, if there was a side deck in this game, I would side the extra Twin Twister just because you don't know what you're going to play against. If you play against some really heavy back row deck, you really don't want this fragile deck to get stopped super hard because it can play through some stuff, but it doesn't do a super good job. So you want to clear that back row as best you can. Monster Reborn is pretty much an extender. It's a free body on board that you're going to use for summons, or you can even Monster Reborn and Xyz Monster and rank up with Haruko from there if you're running low on resources. So for sure a 1 of, gotta have it. Bujin Carnation, I don't know if I'd keep this or not. If you control no monsters your opponent does, you can special summon Bujin monster from your graveyard and one from your banish zone. Special summon both of them, and then you have to Xyz summon with them to make a Beast Warrior or Wing Beast. So you're pretty much just making one of your these guys, Bujin Ties or Bujin Keys. You cannot make a Ahashima, right? Oh, no, I'm thinking of something else. So you could, I guess, technically make a Hashima, but I don't see why you would. If you're using this card in the first place, you probably don't really have much to work with in your hand, so my mistake. But it's an okay card. It only comes up if you're losing pretty hard, and it can be a way to come back. I don't know. I could see myself cutting it to put in that extra max C, or to fit in something else that I might come across in the future here. We got the Sadness, Triple Pot of Desires. I only play 3 because the goal is really only to ever resolve 1 for that draw 2. But 3 just means you're going to see it more often. The other 2 end up being bricks or discard fodder for, the Forbidden Dropless, the Twin Twist, or whatever. Just having something in the hand can end up being kind of useful. But otherwise, it's just about consistency. I like it well enough. I could see you running 2. The problem is I want to see it as soon as possible to get to some of these combo pieces. So I'd probably leave it at 3. For the Fire Formations here, we got Tensu. This thing has been super good, actually. I wasn't expecting it to be as useful as it was, but it's kind of like a half extender, we'll say. So you get an extra normal summon of a Beast Warrior monster each turn. So if you end up with a starting hand of, say, Yamato and Turtle, and then a bunch of this other stuff that doesn't get you to your combo pieces, it can still end up, activate your Tensu, normal summon your non-Beast Warrior first, then activate the effect of Tensu to summon the Beast Warrior as your extra normal summon, and you have a material for Susanoo or whatever else you might want to summon, but it's usually Susanoo. So I like this thing a lot at 1, and I would keep it in there for sure. Triple Tenki, self-explanatory, I assume. Searches a level 4 Beast Warrior, so that's going to be any of your Bujingis. You're pretty much always looking for this guy here. And then that extra 100 attack on both of these actually can come up. Sometimes a lot of these summons, normal summons, or rather a lot of your Bujins, have really good base stats in terms of attack. And so if you have 1 or 2 of these on board, it can push some of these low-cost... Got hair in my mouth. It can push some of these low-cost summons to like 2,000 plus attack outside of these 6, I would say. But these 6 also have some of the best effects, so it's a decent trade-off. Twin Twister we already kind of talked about. Backward Destruction, Discard Outlet. Forbidden Droplet, this thing is awesome. I understand its price tag entirely. To be able to negate multiple things and cut attack in half is kind of like a reverse crane. So if you don't have the crane, you have 3 more of these things, or the sinew or whatever. So it also, the effect negation comes up a lot. I really like effect negation cards. That's why we got the double imperm here. So we'll talk about all this, and I suppose the strikes too. So just being able to, if you know the decks you're playing against well, being able to identify what play they're going after and being able to stop it on the normal summon and having them have to leave something like bad on the field and then pass it back to you when you have access to huge power output with like Crane and Sinew and whatnot, ends up being a big win condition of this deck, is being able to have them leave a monster on board with low attack, because then you can do like 4,000 damage in one swing depending on what you're able to put on your board. So that's what all this effect negation is in here for. The strike comes up just to, like, your opponent's going to summon some stuff that are going to make you feel like, oh shit, what am I going to do? What you're going to do is strike it, because a lot of those big boss monsters, it's hard to play around with this deck. We get into the extra deck here. So F-Zero, we got the F-Zero package, the little guy and the Utopic Draco Force, or Utopic Draco Future. This thing's awesome. I love it. This is like, apart from Susanoo, this would have to be the boss monster here. Basically, the play would be, you need Torifun, you need an extender. You're going to summon Torifun Tribute to get 2 bodies, overlay for Susanoo. Depending on the extender you have between like Haruko and Harume, or some of these other things, depending on whatever else you open, they're just a little bit more conditional. So say you have Haruko in hand, you're going to search the Harume, you're going to rank up the Haruko or you're going to use the Haruko to rank up the Susan into an Amaterasu, and then you're going to Amaterasu special summon the Haruko back, banish special summon the Harume, overlay the Harume for whatever you think you need. Could be Tiger King, could be Tsukiyomi, just if you want those extra searches or draws. And then you're going to overlay your Xyz monsters for the little F-Zero and then the big F-Zero, and you're sitting on some effect negation, can't be destroyed by battle, or card effect like big beast. So Tiger King, he's in here because, 1, he can be used as an F-Zero summon. You can't use number monsters, so that's important to remember. And 2, he searches a fire formation spell or trap when he's summoned. So depending on the situation you're in, being able to search the Tensu or the Tenki, depending on what's in your hand, is kind of relevant fairly often. So he's nice to have in here. Diamond Dyer, this thing was probably going to get cut. It's only here because I didn't have enough of the UR points to get my Exciton Knight. So this will probably be an Exciton Knight just for those board wipes that are an easy summon board wipe. Giant Hand, it's just effect negation. You don't have to play it. It's not really... It's nothing important in particular. There's plenty of other cards in the deck that do what it does. If I was going to replace it, it would be maybe an Abyss Dweller, maybe a... well, for sure a 3rd Susanoo is going to have to fit in here, but I would probably cut this... the Terribly Tired Tapir instead. Susanoo, have 2, want to play 3. You're going to summon 2 or 3 every time you play the deck, unless you get crushed right away. So, sorry, dog's barking. It's distracting me. Trying to make sure there's nothing crazy going on out there. So on summon, you're going to detach. Well, not on summon. After summon, you're going to detach to search a Bujin from your deck to your hand or send it to the graveyard. So that's important for your F-Zero play or just setting up graveyard or setting up hand. And then it can attack every monster on your opponent's side of the field once. That's already pretty good. Why it becomes super relevant is when you Xyz summon a Bujin Xyz monster, you can attach Torifun from your graveyard to it, and now every monster it destroys gets banished instead. So you can just completely remove those resources from your opponent, from access from your opponent. I mean, depending on the deck you're playing against, obviously. So 3 of these for sure. Working on that. Kagutsuchi, when he's on the field, or as soon as he's summoned, he mills 5. He gets 100 attack for every Bujin card that gets milled. The deck is pretty much half Bujin cards, so you're likely to mill like 2 or 3-ish each time. So he's going to end up being like a 2,800 beater. You can detach material from him to prevent a Bujin Beast Warrior you control from being destroyed. So that's himself or any of the other ones. And that ends up being some nice little extra protection. And he's potentially your biggest Bujin special summon that you can do. So if you have good graveyard setup, but not enough resources to really push for that F-Zero or a big board, I like to end on Kagutsuchi because he's got that built-in protection as well as whatever you're able to put in your grave. Tsukiyomi I've been using a lot for the F-Zero combo because of that draw. So you're going to end up burning a lot of your hand trying to get all your materials on board. So I like to burn down to like 1 or 2 cards if there are spells and traps in the hand. I like to set everything that I want to keep and then keep the 1 card in hand. Summon the Tsukiyomi to detach and then draw 2. And that draw 2 usually ends up being pretty relevant because the deck gets thinned decently well. So it's going to most likely be either more resources or interruption, which you want to have access to. Amaterasu, another big combo piece. So you can detach when a special summon one of your Bujins, so it's good for recycling some of your Bujingis, or if nothing else, you always have this Haruko that's banished to summon it back, because you're never summoning this thing with 3 level 4s, you're always ranking up into it. Or if it's your opponent's turn, you can detach to add 1, here you go, I'll let you read it, add 1 of your banished monsters back to your hand. So if you got to recycle like a Crane, or maybe you didn't want to summon this and put it back in your hand for whatever reason, or whatever the case may be, typically it's going to be Crane. You're going to put Crane back in your hand, or like a Torifun, Harume, Mahitatsu, something like that. It's alright. I don't use that effect very often. Typically I'm using this special summon and then trying to wait out the turn if I didn't use this for F-Zero material to use it a second time to special summon. Tornado Dragon, just detach 1, pop a spell trap on the field, backrow destruction, always good. Baguska, I will be cutting this for something. We got Exciton and we got Susanoo that kind of fit in here, so there goes Diamond Dyer and Baguska. So I won't talk too much about it. It's just too much of a grind-based card when I want the deck to be a little bit more explosive and combo-heavy right now because the deck, I mean, we lost so much of the, like, no Kaiser Coliseum, no Vanity's Emptiness. You can't just sit and protect the castle. You got to have output. Number 60, Dugaras. This thing's so cool. If only it wasn't a number monster, it would eliminate the need for the Tsukiyomi at all because it doesn't require you to discard anything. It does make you skip your draw phase after you draw 2 and then discard 1, but it doesn't cost you anything and it doesn't take any setup. So usually I'm only summoning this if I know that I am like this close to finishing the game. I'm just looking for that last little push, and then I'll take the no draw on the next turn because I'm hoping we're not getting to the next turn. So I like this card a lot. I would keep it in there. Zeus, just another board wipe to go along with Exciton Knight. It's a little bit harder to summon, and it's after battle phase where Exciton is not, although Exciton doesn't let you do any damage after you've used it. But it's also, if you get stuck on something not great, like if you didn't get the right materials for the Bujin monster you wanted and you can't extend any harder, just to get an attack off and then be able to put this on board, you got a 3,000 body that can wipe the board. It's just good extra line of defense. And then our only link monster here is Bujinki Ahashima. So I don't really use this as much as I had in the past. Pretty much what it does is when it's summoned, you get to target 2 monsters with the same level, 1 in the graveyard, 1 in your hand, special summon both of them, and then you're going to overlay into an Xyz monster, probably the Susanoo, most likely. The reason for that is, 1, because Susanoo is your best extra deck summon, for sure, without a whole lot of extra comboing to get to the other ones, and 2, if the Xyz monster it's pointing to activates its effect, it's also back row destruction. So you're gonna use the effects, overlay Susanoo, detach a search, pop something, get something in your hand, keep going from there. And that'll round out the extra deck and the deck profile there. So hopefully I did a decent job of explaining myself on a lot of these. If you got opinions on what you would change here, or if there's stuff you know about this format that I don't know, which is very possible because I'm not as familiar with the OCG meta, let me know. Let's have a conversation about it in the comments. Let's go open some packs here before we head out. I got 1,300 gems, so let's see what we got. We got some secret packs. What do you guys feel like opening here? What is that? I can't see that through my own face. We'll just go with the standard, huh? The regular one. Let's go 10. Or, you know, which one has Max C in it? That's probably the red one, right? Maybe we'll pull that third Max C. Well, let's do it. That's 10 packs here, and then we'll be heading out. All right, we got the one ultra rare in there already. Yeah, let's not skip it. We'll slow roll this. Take our time. All right. Nothing. Oh, we got a, what do you call this? It looks like collector's rare foiling, but that can't possibly be it. Looks like we got an SR in here somewhere. We'll do them one at a time here. Gust Kraken. Alright. Not useful to me in the slightest. How you guys feel about that relaxing music there? Link to the creators in the comments down below, or in the description down below if you're curious. Nothing again. Number 4. Looks like nothing a second time. Or a third time at this point. Another of the shinies. No rainbows yet. Alright, we got something here. Let's see what we got. Give me that Max C. We got 2. We'll save those for the end. Another shiny. What do we got here? SR Elemental Hero the Shining. SR Cards from the Sky. Nope. Nope, not what we're looking for. Alright, here's our Ultra. Can we get Laplacian? Can we get that Max C? Nope, the first Dark Lord. That is a terrible choice for an Ultra Rare. I suppose you're just going to convert it anyway, but that card is not, it's not even part of a good deck. If it was like the best card in a bad deck even, I guess I could see it, but it's a bad card in a bad deck. Nothing again. Number 8, ooh, another Ultra. Come on, Max C. I don't even know if that's in here, but I would assume it would have to be, right? There's only 3 different packs. Ooh, this is a banger of a pack. What do we got? Gravedigger's Trap Hole. Galatea. Shiny Galatea. And... dude, Diamond Dustin. That's another terrible card for a terrible deck as an ultra rare. Sucks. And it wasn't even a shiny one, so it's not even worth extra UR. Oh, this one's gonna be jank. Oh, Royal Tribute. Alright, final pack here. Let's see what we got. Oh, it's not gonna be good. Alright. Oh, it might be good. Look at that. As we're opening this last pack here, I want to say thank you guys for hanging out with me, checking out the Bujin deck list, and sharing whatever comments you have down below. Any criticism, any thoughts, whatever. What are you playing right now? Tell me. Do you have a deck list on your profile? Tell me that too. I'll come watch it. We'll have a little conversation about all the decks. But thank you guys again. Let's reveal this last SR, and then we'll get out of here for the day. Boom. Citadel Whale. Not a great one. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a nice day.